Hello, everyone. We are going to get started now. So welcome, everyone, to our live stream conversation with the authors of the new JMeter ebook. So here on the East Coast, we've had some snow, although it's a beautiful day. Hope everyone's having a nice day today. So we are going to be having, so my name is Chris Beckstrom. I'm with Redline 13. And Redline 13 is a load testing platform that makes it easy to use technologies like JMeter, AWS, etc. Today we are going to have a 1-hour interview with two of the authors of the new JMeter ebook. Afterwards, we will be having a drawing for the free ebook, and we will notify the winner. And if you like, you can still submit questions in chat. After the live stream is done, we will share out video clips, so follow us on Twitter and elsewhere. So let's get started. So I'm going to ask each of our authors to introduce themselves and how they got involved with JMeter and the Apache JMeter team. Philippe, can you start it off?
Hello, everybody. So my name is Philippe Morwad. I'm developer and committer on Gmeter. I'm also a contributor to Gmeter ecosystem, which is I contribute to Gmeter Maven plugin, Jenkins plugins, Gmeter plugins, and I work as performance expert for Ubique Engineering, where I lead the development of Ubique Loadpack, a set of enterprise-grade plugins for Gmeter.
Great. And Philippe, how long have you been involved with the JMeter team?
I've been working with Gmeter since 2009 and been a committer to Gmeter since 2011.
Great. All right. And how's the weather there?
Today it's very shiny. We had some snow 2 weeks ago, but today it's kind of start of spring.
Okay, great. All right, Antonio, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Antonio Gomez Rodriguez, and I work in application performance for more than 10 years. I do a lot of things, load testing, web perf, in a lot of technology, Java.NET, and with a lot of tools, EPM, load testing tools, profiler. Now I'm working at sologer.com. It's a French real estate website operator. I'm in charge in performance, and I have started with Gmeter years ago because my first load test was with LoadRunner, and to train me, I have tried Gmeter. I have contacted Philippe and Melander to ask help to them, and I've tried a lot of Gmeter, and now I have made a consulting with Gmeter. I have made some patch, and more patch, and I have become a committer, and months ago, PMC member of Apache JMeter.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining. Let's get started then. So let's start off with a little history of JMeter. So Philippe, I'll start with you. Could you talk about why has JMeter become the most popular load testing tool?
I guess that one of the main reasons was because it was one of the first open source and free tools. If I remember correctly, when I started with load testing, the only alternative in open source was OpenStar at that time, which last release was in 2007. I think the reason for this success is that it addresses two types of users: developers on one side and testers, thanks to its GUI, which is really an IDE for script and load testing. Other reasons are that it's easy to deploy, install. You don't have to handle a license per environment, so you don't have to bother. It's free. you unzip it, you install Java, you unzip it, and you run it, and that's it. I think also that it has a very rich ecosystem which fills in a lot of requirements. So, nowadays, there is around 73 open source free plugins. There are integration with Jenkins, Maven, Gradle, Docker, etc. And one also of the big reasons, I guess, is that it's backed by Apache Software Foundation. And if you compare it to locked-in applications or OSS backed by one private company, it's kind of reassuring for users. So I guess it's one of the reasons.
Okay, great. Antonio, anything you want to add to that?
I have the same opinion of Philippe. It's with Gmeter you can do what you want and it's free. On me, it's main region. It's become the more popular load testing tools.
Great. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And one of the things we wanted to talk about that people are interested in, and whether people have been using JMeter only briefly or for a long time, but what is some advice that you could give to load testers? Philippe, you want to start that?
Okay. So I guess there are two types of populations that would be interested by JMeter: beginners and long-time testers. So first, I would tell them both to beware of outdated blogs. Since JMeter is a long-standing market player, there are a lot of blogs, documentations, videos that are now outdated. So it's better to get up to date with new ways of load testing and using JMeter. Because when I look at, when I Google a bit, I see a lot of ugly swing graphs, while now there are reports. First thing I would say is follow JMeter versions. Check out every change in JMeter because we document a lot what we release and what are the new enhancements, and so that you are using it the right way. And so this is, I guess, my first advice. I'll let Antonio continue.
Same tool. Gmeter have a lot of improvement for year to year, and the latest is very good. The very old Gmeter was not good, not as good as now. Use the latest Gmeter release. Check the doc; it's very good, and it's my advice for Gmeter user, for beginners.
So, Philippe, could you talked a little bit about some of the things that are outdated out there. How about some of the capabilities of JMeter that you would suggest people are not necessarily the best ways to use JMeter today?
So, one of the things that I would really tell people not to use is to forget about bean shell JavaScript, because they kill the performance of the tool. The up-to-date ways of using JMeter are to use what we call GSR 223, which uses by default Groovy. Groovy is a great language. It's an up-to-date language with the last version of Java, and it's very powerful one. So the best way to use custom scripting in JMeter, if you need to extend it, is to use this language. Another thing I would tell people is stop using GUI mode for load testing. We have added a warning when you started in GUI mode. GUI mode is just for building the test, scripting it, debugging it, but once you're done, switch to CLI mode. There is a kind of legend that says there is no CLI mode in JMeter. It's just FUD. There is CLI mode called non-GUI mode. That's a good way of load testing, and that's how JMeter will scale very, very well up to thousands of threads without problem. Finally, I would encourage people to look at new ways of reporting in Gmeter and not use any more GUI-based reporters like aggregate reports, etc. The most up-to-date and maintained way and rich feature is the HTML report that is generated at end of load test by two command line options. So this is for the things that people use too much.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about using JSR 223 and Groovy. Is that something easy to be able to transition over to?
Frankly, if you know Bean Shell, switching to Groovy is just a matter of copy-paste the code in the new component. If you're using JavaScript, then it's a bit more complex because it's an object language. So you need to just understand a bit the object concept, but it's still very easy because it's scripting for Java. So it's kind of JavaScript.
Okay, great. So I guess kind of going along with this, another question for people who are using it, you've probably talked with and you hear a lot from people that are using JMeter. What are some of the areas that people seem to struggle with?
I guess one of the first things they may not understand is that they don't need to manipulate XML in Gmeter. XML is just the saving format, but the way of using Gmeter is building the script in the GUI. Another concept that is not correctly understood and which is very powerful is the scoping. Scoping, maybe it's hard to summarize it, but we mention it and explain it clearly in the book. Scoping is where you put an element. So a lot of elements in Gmeter are scoped, which means that if you put them at the root of the test plan, they will apply to all the test plan. If you put them very low in the test plan, they apply only to one element. And sometimes people don't understand that if they put an element too high in the hierarchy, it will apply to everything. So this is a concept that is not always correctly understood. Another concept that is not always understood is properties vs variables. So that's something that confuses newbies and newcomers. So we also try to explain it clearly in the book. But to summarize, properties are shared across virtual users. Variables are specific to one virtual user and are not shared. These, in my experience, are the most misunderstood concepts.
Okay, great. Antonio, what would you like to add to that?
Two things to add. Functions. Gmeter have a lot of functions. We have a helper in the GUI, in the interface to help to use it. You can do a lot of things with them. And second is a load model. Open and close model in load. When, for example, close model, there are only one given number of user in the system, and no new user can enter in the system. It's a closed model. Open model is whatever happens in the system, the Gmeter keep to a flow of virtual user arrival. And in a public website, it's an open model. I have seen a lot of people making, we configure Gmeter or another tools to make, okay, I want to, for example, 10 virtual user and inject the load and I'm waiting. And at the final, I check the throughput. The problem is if the tested application slow down, Gmeter will slow down too, because we have said to Gmeter, use only 10 virtual user. on the public website, the user will not slow down. If you use the wrong model, we will have wrong results, and we can go in production with and be happy and crash some minutes, hours after the production. Yeah. The most thing I have seen is it's load models that are not understand and not choose the right model for the right use case.
And to complement what Antonio says, we have a component that appeared in version 4.0, which is called Precise Throughput Timer, which allow you to simulate arrivals on as they would happen during peak traffic, which suits what Antonio discusses about. So we talk about it in the book, and it's really a component that is very powerful and that follows Poisson algorithm, and that is people like Neil Gunter, which are reference in the domain, advise people to use such algorithm. And so this component is the correct one to use, for example, to simulate open models, which are the typical model used for e-commerce websites.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about some of the things now that are either a little bit more recent and then actually start looking out a little bit more into the future of things. So JMeter 5.1 just came out. I guess it was last week. So I think that's something that people would be interested in hearing about that. Philippe, can you talk about that?
Yeah, so the 5.1 version was released this Tuesday. It's mainly a bug fix version because 5.0 introduced new, it doesn't appear, but it introduced a lot of new concepts, and it switches from HTTP client 4.2 to to the last version of 4.5. So there were important changes, and so there are a lot of bug fixes. So we highly advise users to upgrade, and there are a few enhancements which I will demo some of them rapidly to you. So I'm gonna share my screen. Tell me if it's working for you.
Okay.
Do you see Gmeter?
I will tell you in a moment. And then, okay. So I'm now going to, hold on a second there, Philippe. I'm going to switch scenes here so that everyone can see this well. All right. We're just going to, there we go. All right. Go ahead, Philippe. You can demo away.
Okay, so I will demo the UX improvement because they are visual, so people can see them. So one of an interesting new feature is the ability to create a test plan from a curl command. So why did we do that? Because if you usually people who work with web services and microservices are used to hit to have either documentation mentioning curl, or for example in a browser you can using for example in Firefox using web developer and using network tab. You see, let me switch back. So when you hit a URL here, you see the network, the URLs are hit, and so what you can do in a browser, you can do copy as curl like this, and then in Gmeter, we have introduced a new menu that groups all the tools that were sometimes in help, sometimes in options. So we have tried to clarify the UI, and you can use this one, import from curl. Do you see the pop-up?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. And you passed the curl command, and you hit create HTTP request, and it creates here a test plan from 0 because there was no test plan. So it configures 10 threads running, ramping up in 10 seconds forever and running for 1 hour. You can, of course, add another curl. So now I have a test plan, and if I hit another URL, I can take it, copy as curl, paste it here, and now you see the test plan was amended with a new URL here. So you have the URL field and also the headers that were in the request. So it's very interesting when you need to either to jumpstart with Jmeter, you don't know it, then you create a test plan very easily. Or if you already know it, you just want to change one URL, you can do it like this. Another interesting, so this is one of the features to simplify and speed up productivity with Jmeter. Another feature is the ability to make templates. So a template is a kind of wizard, and with Jmeter 5.1 it becomes really a wizard because you can add parameters to a template. A template is made to speed up development of tests. For example, there is a template to record, there is a template to test JDBC, MongoDB, recording, SOAP web service, REST web, regular test plan. So if we take recording test plan, this one is now parameterized, meaning you can configure what website you will be testing, where you want to store the recorded request and response, and the scheme you want to create. And then, as you can see here, it uses user-defined variables, and it amends also here this file, which will contain the recording. And of course, you can create your own templates and make them parameterized. All this is documented on the website. Another feature that will be interesting in upcoming version of Jmeter, but you can exploit it if you're comfortable with JSON. The idea is to allow to add in the future pass-fail criterions to Jmeter. And to do that, now when you generate a report at the end of the test plan, so for example, I've run a load test here, which compare performances of Jmeter. It generates the HTML report, but it also generates a new file, a file, which contains the summary of all the requests, with showing the percentiles, the error rates, the sample counts, etc. And in the future, we'll be able to say, my test will be failed if the throughput is below this value, if the percentile 19th is below another value, etc. So here are some of the main feature of upcoming Jmeter. I will you can read, of course, release notes. Other features are detailed.
All right, great. Thanks for the demo there. All right.
Yeah, I have something to add with curl.
Yes,
a lot of developers, when they develop a web service, add the Swagger tool, and with Swagger we can get the curl and just copy paste in the Gmeter to have the script to load testing. It's very powerful and easy to use.
Okay, great. All right, Philippe, you're still there, right?
Yeah. Am I still sharing my screen?
You are still sharing, yes.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Let's see. You are. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Very, very good. So before jumping into the future, it's when we talk about what's going to be happening, sometimes it's good to look look into the past, look at what's happened, recently. So if you look at load testing, and obviously the changes, primarily because of the cloud and how that's changed things, how did things really happen before the cloud was available to do load testing? So maybe you could talk about that.
Do I start or Antonio?
I can start. Yes, the big difference I have seen before and now, it's before that we have a load testing team in Very Tower. It's a load testing team where one application needs to go to production, load tester need to validate it. A load testing team in Very Tower take a lot of time to test the application. They don't know how the application works. They are, and now with cloud, DevOps, low time to market, we need to test early and always, and to have a lot of injectors and virtual user. You need injector in cloud, because we can make a lot of tests at the same time always. And for to have it, we need two things. One, a load test tool without limits in virtual user or protocol or something like that. Gmeter can do it for it. And injectors to make the load, and to have a lot of injector, but sometimes we need a lot. The day after we need few. The cloud is good for it.
Okay.
And now it's okay for me.
Great, Philippe.
I guess in my experience, I started doing load testing in 2009. One of the main issues sometimes was to have an ISO production environment. I mean an environment of which is equal to the production environment. With the cloud, you can have it. You can build it for a few days or a few hours and then stop it. It doesn't cost you more than that. And so it's with the cloud, we get flexibility that we didn't have. I even know projects that where we decide, I was not the only decider, but it was decided that we would not do load testing because it cost too much. Another factor is indeed the price of the tools. For example, one of the biggest consulting work I did when I started was to migrate from LoadRunner to JMeter, because my customer had a license for 900 virtual users, but it was an e-commerce website. So they had to load test at much higher number of virtual users. And so they chose JMeter. And hopefully with the cloud has drastically impacted those prices and reduced the cost of load testing. And it's sometimes, as you say, nearly free. Also, performance in the old days was an optional task. It was a checkbox that you could not check to go live. I know project where it was just an option. And now it's a feature. Nowadays, performance is another feature. So it's not something you can not do. It's mandatory. And if you don't want to figure in, for example, news of the damned of there's some perf bytes, I think they have something called news of the damned, where each time a website crashes, they talk about it, and those failures will cost you in terms of money and in terms of image. So performance is now mandatory. Also, what the cloud has simplified a lot is the machine setup. Nowadays, you can test with as much virtual users as you want. You can build a test with 100K, 1 million virtual users very easily compared to the old days where it was something impossible. And of course, there are many fields where the cloud has bring a lot of features like live reporting, like easy installation, and so you don't have to bother with those anymore. That's for my part.
Okay, great. So, all right. So let's look at. Both of you have been working with the Apache JMeter team now for quite some time. You're looking at some of the things that are going to be happening. What do you see as the future of JMeter, given the prevalence of the cloud, given things like AI and other technologies that are becoming more and more prominent? Philippe, you want to start there?
Yeah, so it's hard to predict the future, and what can be done in Gmeter depends a lot on our time, the team time, and contributors' time, and new contributors, newcomers, which I don't know, and I hope we will have a lot of new contributors soon. So, but
would you like to see if anyone here can join and contribute?
Oh yeah, I'd be very happy. Yeah. One the ideas we have, some are shared and some are mine. Are for example, our first target, I guess, this year would be to add HTTP2 support to Gmeter. You can nowadays load test HTTP2 through third-party plugins, but we'd like to have this HTTP2 native in Gmeter. Nowadays, HTTP2 is around 40% of the market, but it will keep growing. Another field of improvement is always to continue improved UX, Gmeter UI, and user experience. So we will soon add, for example, report generation from GUI. Today, you do it from command line. In upcoming version, you'll be able to do it from the GUI. We hope to add also pass-fail criteria integrated into Gmeter to improve even its integration with DevOps tools and the DevOps toolchain. We also hope to add a backend listener implementation that will use Micrometer to interface with solutions like Prometheus, which is a new player in the market of real-time series database, and which is very used a lot in container environments. Regarding AI, we have ideas, but I don't know the maturity of AI. It's a complex field. It requires time, and but among the ideas we have, it would be to simplify script building through an AI handled correlation. That's a plan, not short-term plan. Maybe automated metrics analysis to tell the developer or the tester, this is the potential issue, check it. Maybe those are potential other issue, look here. Also maybe problems discovery. I think this will be better done by interfacing other tools like APMs which already use AI like Dynatrace. And of course, we'll be happy to welcome communities' ideas and all contribution. As you know, anybody can contribute to Gmeter through ideas, documentation, code, discussion. Everybody is welcome on the project.
Okay, great. Antonio, what do you see in your crystal ball there? What kind of things do you think might be happening in the future?
I think Gmeter will have more integration with other tools. Like Philippe have said, we have some integration with APM, but there are a lot of other tools I think we need to integrate to it to allow to have their benefits. For example, the tools that use IA or better graphics. And the other things, I think it's I would like to improve the HTML report to have easiest analysis add some graph on some new metrics. On it with what don't repeat what Philippe have said. The two more things what I would like to add.
Okay, great. So you both obviously talked about the book, and that's really been, I'm sure that's taken a lot of time there. You just, it is an ebook, and you did your final installment. Antonio, how long were you and Philippe working on the book?
You have made the French release before. It take a lot of time, 1 or 2 years, I think, because I've started with Milander, and after we have asked to Philippe to rejoin us, and I have a baby during the writing of the book. It took a lot of time. After that, we decided to make the English release. To do it, we don't just update with the latest release of Gmeter. We have add a lot of things to it to be more complete and useful. And many years for the two books.
Great. So Philippe, maybe you could talk about this final installment, because there's some interesting topics that are in there as far as DevOps and Agile and things like that.
Yeah, so the final installment is about DevOps and integration of JMeter in the DevOps toolchain. So, Milamber, Antonio will speak, I guess, about the organizational aspect of DevOps. I will speak about what concerns automation and things like that. So, as you know, and as I guess a lot of people know, Agile is intended to speed up deliveries through shorter iterations. It puts strain on developers and testers here, which are our public. So when you have such frequent go-lives, it requires you to have a safety net through a set of tools which are called the DevOps toolchain. So JMeter integrates in two categories within test automation and load test automation. So in this chapter, we answer to the question, how does JMeter integrate in the DevOps toolchain? So first, it integrates by providing higher productivity. Indeed, when you're working in DevOps mode, in Agile mode, you have short sprints, and you need to update the script very rapidly. So a tool that allows you to update your load test rapidly answers one of the requirements of Agile and DevOps. So we have improved recording, templating, faster scripting, and correlation, and we speak about those items in this chapter. Another important feature is how JMeter integrates in the CI/CD pipeline. So we speak about the integration with Maven. Maven is the most popular build tool in the Java ecosystem. So it's important to be able to run your load test within the build chain. So we speak about how to integrate JMeter test with JMeter Maven plugin. Another important tool is Jenkins. And so, for example, when you have at least two requirements, you would like to automate your load test with Jenkins. So we explain how to do it through Maven plugin and also through Jenkins performance plugin through Taurus. And we also speak how to automate the decision to go live or fail and not go live, and fail the build by adding some rules, some validation rules, a kind of pass-fail criterions to your load test. So we explain how to do it with Jenkins Performance plugin. And we speak also a bit about a new tool, a new player on the market, which is Taurus. It's a very nice tool which has been created by Andrei Pochilko, who is one of JMeter team contributors. And it allows you to configure as code. So it's also a nice feature because this feature is required for developers nowadays. They like to manipulate code. And with Taurus, they're able to do it. So those are the things we discuss in the book.
Okay. Antonio, did you have anything you wanted to add on that last section there?
As for me, DevOps need two things. An organization adapt to DevOps and automation. For automation, JMeter is very great. We can do a lot of things with. And if you don't want to bother with the installation of Gmeter or Gmeter, Grafana, InfluDB for the monitoring, you can use a solution that you propose, Redline 13. And the two new organization or new adapted organization plus Gmeter or solution cloud based in Gmeter, I think the winning team.
All right. Let's see. I was just checking here to see about any questions that we had gotten here. Let's see. Here's one from Snookafly. I understand load testing a big project or before launching a service. Does adding some kind of daily load testing offer value? Do you know anyone doing it?
I answer, or Antonio?
You.
Okay. Yeah, I do know at least one customer of mine which runs performance test every night at least. So it's an automated and scheduled load test every night. It's done on a pre-production environment, which is ISO production. And whether the load test is good or bad, they decide to go live or not. And they also run during the day load test whenever they put a version in production, which allows them to to confirm whether there is performance enhancement or regression. And if there's a regression, then it's a no-go for production. So doing that nowadays is rather easy for something like e-commerce website, because usually it's a set of HTTP code, not too complex. Still, there are fields where it's complex, like the checkout tunnel, the payment methods. But you can decide what to put. And in the book, anyway, we discuss about what you need to select in the steps of a project. You don't need to test the same thing. For example, to be efficient when you're early in the project, and that's the shift left strategy, you should be testing rather easy things that are maintainable in the script. For example, you could test your REST, your microservices calls. It's just a simple URL to hit. You integrate it in your Maven build or in Jenkins, and you have a set of validation of performance on this simple calls. The more you move close to production, the more load testing becomes complex. So you might have to make decision, and it's always, you cannot test 100% of the scope. It's always it's a matter of choice, and you need to make the good choice. And for this, a lot of people can help you, and the team, the project team needs to work together to decide what is the critical feature what is risky, and the dev teams can tell what they think is risky. The business team can say, this is critical for us. We will be doing high marketing on this, so this feature must be load tested. The system team can say, we have a doubt on this part of the architecture. Please load test it. So this is a teamwork to decide what to put in the load test. But to summarize, yes, it's possible, but you need to select your strategy.
Okay, great. All right. I'm going to go back to a question that I had for you, and in the meantime, if anyone wants to ask another question on the chat, I think we might have time for that. So I was listening to a podcast on Perf Bytes. You mentioned them earlier, and they were talking about JMeter, and apparently some people have written articles about how JMeter is difficult. How would you answer that question?
That's a question that I always have to answer, at least because there is some marketing FUD around Gmeter by commercial tools and sometimes even alternative open source tools. First, I guess the writer of this blog was maybe not aware of new features in Gmeter. Maybe Gmeter used to be more difficult in the past, but every version simplifies things. For example, in the past, default configuration was not the best one, and with newer version, we made it default are good options. We increased productivity through improving recording. We have added correlators for every technology, for JSON, for HTML, for XML. There was for XML, but with 5.0, we improved it with XPath 2. We have added also boundary extractor, which is a very simple extractor. You just have to say what's left, what's right, and you extract data. So all those features simplify Gmeter. Also, the reporting was something missing, and you still read a lot of blogs saying Gmeter has no reporting feature or have very limited reporting. That's, in my opinion, totally wrong. If I compare it to other commercial tools, it's the same and sometimes even better, in my opinion. And I do load testing nearly 80% of my work time. So I think I'm not a bad judge on this feature. I think indeed there's maybe Gmeter is less integrated than commercial tool. For example, if you select a commercial tool, there is a kind of guide that guides you from building the script. Then you have a wizard saying specify how to do the load test, to inject load, and then you get the report. So yes, we don't have this in Gmeter, but you get it rather easily. And with the past tools like Redline and other solutions, you get this feature also very easily nowadays. Running a massive load test with the cloud and the solution like Redline is a matter of few minutes at very competitive cost, which is, I'm not sure it's the case of commercial competitors. And for example, Gmeter is integrated in something like at least 9 past tools, and it also has interface with other commercial tools. So I guess if it was that difficult, I'm not sure it would have the success it has. But anyway, we encourage all people that use Gmeter to let us know what is not good in Gmeter and give us just report it, and we try to improve it. So finally, in my opinion, the tool is one thing, but the methodology is another critical thing. And whatever tool you have, if you don't have the right methodology and the right way to do it, you will fail your load test, whatever the tool you select. And among the reasons for failing, I see for example, misconfigured or non-isoprod environment, invalid injection, where you don't put enough load, like Antonio said before regarding e-commerce and open-close model. So you need to choose the right model. You have maybe the wrong scenario. Did you select the right, the feature that will be highly used? Did you select the feature that is critical for your business? Also, you might have the wrong simulation. Sometimes with an integrated tool, indeed, it's easy. But if it's easy, sometimes you don't need to think enough. If you don't think enough, you will be making probably more mistakes than if you have to think and master a bit more the tool. And finally, as with any other tool, you might have a saturated injector. For example, I read sometimes in documentation of tools that you can accept an injector that is consuming 90% of CPU. Why they say that? Because I think there is an additional cost if you want more virtual users or if you want to have more injectors. But that, in my opinion, that's wrong. And having an injector that is higher than 50%, and even that it might be high, means you have an invalid load test. So as you can see, whatever the tool you have, load testing can fail, whether it's a simple tool or it's a complex tool. And in my opinion, nowadays JMeter is not more complex than other open source tools or commercial tools.
Great. Antonio, anything you want to add to that?
Maybe same as Philippe's, JMeter have less wizard, and if you want to code your test like in LoadRunner or something else, it's different. For example, with LoadRunner, we have two scripts. We can script within C language, and in one screen you can see all the options. And in JMeter, we need to click in each element, and after, to compare with LoadRunner, we have a web graphical interface to launch and check the execution. And for the moment, JMeter, in the core JMeter, we don't have this solution with this feature, but Redline 13 or other tools, we can have the same level of, for example, LoadRunner with JMeter. My opinion, it's different from tools like LoadRunner because we don't script we don't have a language to script the script, to write the script. And when we execute a load test, you need to install a time series database, backend listener to send the data to this time series. And this one can be fixed with tools like you have Redline 13 or other tools. For me, today, with I don't see difference with commercial tools or JMeter plus PaaS tools. Okay. Or only JMeter, but with a lot of glue to install a database series, Grafana to check the execution and the backend and configure backend listener. But for me, if you take, for example, JMeter and Redline 13, it's like other. It's easy like other commercial tools.
Okay, great. Let's see. There was an earlier question that I think Philippe, you had mentioned something about thresholds. Will threshold be on a per metric? That's the question that someone had written in. There's, do you understand what the question is asking there?
I guess maybe they're speaking about pass-fail criteria, no? Something like that.
Okay.
At least that's my understanding. Yes. Just to clarify, it's not available yet. You can do it, I think, through Torus integration. They have pass-fail criterions. But with Gmeter, we hope to have it in 5.2 or version 6.0. I don't know how it will be named. But yes, the intention is to be able to do it based on one particular transaction. So it will not be on overall. It will be on data of every transaction. So it should be possible to do it on the, for example, if you have the login transaction, you will be able to add it to do it on the login transaction and not on the overall transaction. I hope I answer the question.
I hope so. That's okay. Well, we are basically just about at the end of our hour here. And I think both of you really addressed a lot of really interesting topics here, from a little bit of the background, how things are working today, as well as looking into the future, which is always interesting. So I want to thank both of you for being part of today. I want to thank you both for being contributors to the JMeter community and having done that for many years there. So, and I do want to also mention thanks for your input that you both have given us to Redline 13 and the ongoing development there. I'll just give each of you a moment to, if you have any final words there, Philippe.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank you for this invitation, and also thank you for promoting our book through your offers. That's really nice of you, and we appreciate this contribution to open source. And also, I'd like to mention that the book was also written by Milamber, who is not here, but he's the third writer and an important writer of this book. So we started in 2015, and it ends. It's temporary end now, but we will continue to update this book with new features of Gmeter.
You're not going to be writing any new books anytime soon, then, are you?
Sorry, could you repeat?
No, do you have any more books in the future?
Not for now regarding myself.
Okay. Antonio, any final words there?
No, but thanks to the invitation and thanks to the activity when I need help to Redline 13.
Great. All right. Well, thanks both of you. To the audience, thank you for being part of this. I will send a follow-up email with links of where you can get the book if you haven't seen that already, as well as Twitter usernames, and definitely ask for your feedback on this. This was our first time to do something like this, so we'd love to hear your feedback on the topics. The technology we used, using Twitch here, was definitely something new and interesting. And obviously you'll be able to see the videos there. We'll be tweeting out video clips, which you can pass along too. So once again, thanks everyone, and we'll talk with you again hopefully soon. Bye now.